Then the world is filled with men and women seeking pleasure, excitement, novelty, then and ever to be moved to laughter or tears, not seeking strength, stability, and power, but seeding weakness, then and eagerly engaged in dispersing what power they have, men and women of real power and influence, then ents of few because few are prepared to make the sacrifice necessary to the acquisition of power, and fewer are still ready to patiently build up character to be swayed by your fluctuating thoughts and impulses, then to be weak and powerless to rightly control and direct those forces is to be strong and powerful. Men of strong animal passions have much of the ferocity of the beast, but this is not power. The elements of power are there, but it is only when this ferocity is tamed and subdued by higher intelligence that real power begins. And men can only grow in power by awakening themselves to higher and ever higher states of intelligence and consciousness. The difference between a man of weakness and one of power lies not in the strength of the personal will, but in the focus of consciousness, which represents their states of knowledge. Then the pleasure seekers, the lovers of excitement, the hunters after novelty, and the victims of impulse and hysterical emotion lack the knowledge of principles that give balance, stability, and influence. Then a man begins to develop power when he checks his impulses and selfish inclinations. Then he falls back upon the higher and calmer consciousness within him and begins to steady himself upon a principle. Then the realization of unchanging principles in consciousness is at once the source and secret of the highest power. Then dawns upon the soul a divine calm ensues, and joy unspeakable gladdens the heart. He who has realized such a principle ceases to wander and remains poised and self-possessed. He ceases to be passion's slave and becomes a master builder in the temple of destiny. The man that is governed by self, and not by a principle, changes his front when his selfish comforts are threatened deeply, intent upon defending and guarding his own interests. He regards all means as lawful. That will subserve that end he is continually scheming, as to how he may protect himself against his enemies, being too self-centered to perceive that he is his own enemy. Such a man's work crumbles away, for it is divorced from truth and power. All effort that is grounded upon self perishes. Only that work endures that is built upon an indestructible principle. The man who stands by a principle is the same calm, dauntless, self-possessed man under all circumstances. Then, when the hour of trial comes and he has to decide between his personal comforts and the truth, he gives up his comforts and remains firm. Then, even the prospect of torture and death cannot alter or deter him. Then, the man himself regards the loss of his wealth, his comforts, then or his life, as the greatest calamity that can befall him. The man of principle looks upon these incidents as comparatively insignificant and not to be weighed with loss of character or loss of truth. Then, the desert truth is to him the only thing that can really be. Call it a calamity. Then it is the hour of crisis that decides who are the minions of darkness and who are the children of light. It is the epic of threatening disaster, ruin, and persecution that divides the sheep from the goats and reveals to the reverent gaze of succeeding ages the men and women of power. It is easy for a man, so long as he is left in the enjoyment of his possessions, to persuade himself that he believes in and adheres to the principles of peace, brotherhood, and universal love. But if when his enjoyments are threatened, or he imagines they are threatened, he begins to clamor loudly for war, he shows that he believes in and stands upon not peace, brotherhood, and love, but strife, selfishness, and hatred. He who does not desert his principles, when then threatened with the loss of every earthly thing, even to the loss of reputation, and life is the man of power, is the man whose every word and work endures, is the man whom the afterworld honors, reveres, and worships, rather than desert that principle of divine love on which he rested and in which all his trust was placed. Jesus endured the utmost extremity of agony and deprivation. Then and today the world prostrates itself at his pierced feet in rapt adoration. There is no way to acquire spiritual power except by that inward illumination and enlightenment, which is the realization of spiritual principles. And those principles can only be realized by constant practice and application. Take the principle of divine love and quietly and diligently meditate upon it with the object of arriving at a thorough understanding of it. Bring its searching light to bear upon all your habits, actions, speech, and intercourse with others, your every secret thought and desire. As you persevere in this course, the divine love will become more and more perfectly revealed to you, and your own shortcomings will stand out in more and more vivid contrast, spurring you on to renewed endeavor, and having once caught a glimpse of the incomparable majesty of that imperishable principle. Then you will never again rest in your weakness, then your selfishness, or your imperfection, but you will pursue that love until you have relinquished every discordant element and have brought yourself into perfect harmony with it. And that state of inward harmony is spiritual power. Then, take also other spiritual principles, such as purity and compassion, and apply them in the same way. Then, and so exacting his truth, you will be able to make no stay, then no resting place, until the inmost garment of your soul is bereft of every stain, and your heart has become incapable of any hard condemnatory and pitiless impulse. Only insofar as you understand, realize, and rely upon these principles will you acquire spiritual power, and that power will be manifested in and through you in the form of increasing dispassion, patience, and equanimity. Dispassion argues superior self-control. Sublime patience is the very hallmark of divine knowledge, and to retain an unbroken calm amid all the duties and distractions of life marks the man of power. Then it is easy in the world to live after the world's opinion. It is easy in solitude to live after our own, but the great man is he who, in the midst of the crowd, keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude. Then some mystics hold that perfection in dispassion is the source of that power by which miracles are performed. And truly, then, he who has gained such perfect control of all his interior forces that no shock, however great, can for one moment unbalance him, must be capable of guiding and directing those forces with a master hand to grow in self-control. Then patience, then equanimity is to grow in strength and power. Then, and you can only thus grow by focusing your consciousness upon a principle as a child, after making many and vigorous attempts to walk unaided, at last succeeds after numerous falls. In order to accomplish this, you must first attempt to stand alone and break away from the tyranny of custom, tradition, conventionality, and the opinions of others until you succeed in walking lonely and erect among men. Rely on your own judgment. Be true to your own conscience. Follow the light that is within you. All outward lights are so many.